I confess, Mike Davis, that with each EO, I'm like, yes. And then I'm like, because you can feel the filings coming down against them. And that's where they'll all play out, right? Like each one of these is going to get challenged. All right. So where to begin? Let's start with the Trump executive orders that target DEI. That's the most sweeping one. It's the January 21 Ending Illegal Discrimination and Restoring Merit-Based Opportunity, which, by the way, is the perfect name for it because we already have laws on the books that make it illegal to discriminate on the basis of race. And that doesn't mean you can discriminate against whites. It means you can't discriminate against anyone based on their skin color, based on their race, period. Which is why I've been saying from the beginning, all this DEI stuff is illegal. This is illegal. You cannot make hiring, promotion, firing decisions based on the fact that somebody's a white guy or a black woman. It's not okay. So what he's really saying to me, Mike, is he's just now going to enforce this. He's going to now go around and find the places who have been flouting the law and threaten them, potentially deprive them of their federal money. Okay. Trump ordered agencies under his control in the executive branch to apply the civil rights laws, of which I speak, against private sector DEI programs. He also ordered the Attorney General to issue a report within 120 days that includes strategies and policies to combat DEI in the private sector, including possible litigation and identifying large organizations to target for investigation. The order specifically allows for teachers at federally funded institutions of higher education to still advocate for DEI. They can, I want to get the right words. They can advocate for DEI, endorse DEI, and promote DEI, but they cannot use race and sex-based preferences at these universities for hiring, for admissions, for promotions, etc. But they can still have classes on DEI. So you tell me whether this is going to withstand legal challenges that say it's somehow a crackdown on free speech or, a factor of race that may or may not be the determinative factor, and whether this is likely to stand at the end of whatever litigation comes, Mike.
Well, remember what President Trump did with this executive order on DEI is he repealed President Biden's day one executive order on DEI, where President Biden essentially ordered these executive branch agencies to promote this Marxist ideology called diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the problem, as you said, Megyn, is DEI runs directly contrary to our federal civil rights statutes. It is illegal. It is a federal crime. It's a civil violation as well to discriminate based upon race, right? And so and sex. And so what you're seeing with DEI is that you have the federal government under Joe Biden intentionally discriminating, which is clearly illegal. So President Trump's executive order is very carefully crafted, and it essentially tells his executive branch officials, like the director of the Office of Management and Budget, his director of personnel management, his attorney general, to find these programs and eliminate these programs to the maximum extent that that law allows. Right. So he's not just waving a wand and making all DEI go away. He's telling his executive branch officials that they have to follow the law to do it.
So within the executive branch, that's why we're seeing video or that picture, for example, at the Pentagon of them taking down the DEI mural on the wall. Like within, the executive branch and the agencies that Trump has control over, he's saying remove the DEI paraphernalia, remove the DEI classes, remove the DEI language. And then in the private sector, he's saying in particular, when it comes to large corporations and nonprofits, I want my attorney general to submit a report within 120 days with recommendations on who needs to be sued, basically, to force compliance with the civil rights laws. Publicly traded corporations, large nonprofit corporations, foundations with assets of $500 million or more, state and local bar and medical associations and institutions of higher learning with endowments over $1 billion, Dave. So he's saying for those groups, he wants the DOJ to actually start enforcing the civil rights laws if they are unlawfully discriminating on the basis of race or gender.
Yeah, Megyn, he has more power when it comes to the purse. When it comes to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, that's where universities get financial assistance. And that's where the federal government does have a lot of power. And the universities thus far have been slow in responding to the Supreme Court's decision because there's a loophole that Chief Justice Roberts allowed that you can talk about race and how it has affected you in your essays. And you have universities like Harvard and others that have said, okay, Johns Hopkins actually asked you that very question. How has race impacted you? And so universities know that as long as it was the Biden administration there, that the anti-DEI would not be pursued, that the Supreme Court's decision would not be aggressively enforced. Now there's a new sheriff in town, and I would think the universities are now going to start erring on the side of being more careful than they perhaps need to be because they don't want to get sued. They don't want their Title VI funding revoked. I think it's a tougher question when it comes to private institutions. I saw that Roger Goodell, the NFL, said that they're going to continue with their own DEI practices of the Rooney Rule to interview a black candidate for a head coaching position. They don't have strict quotas. And so you're going to see individual institutions like Costco to continue to proudly have DEI. I don't think there's a lot that the federal government can do on that. They can, though. The federal government can wield a big axe when it comes to colleges and universities.
Here's the other thing, though, Mike. I've mentioned this on the air before. I've never named the bank out of respect for my friend, but my friend is a senior guy at a very large bank in Manhattan. And he told me that he needed to get rid of some people because, they were cutting back and whatever, finding efficiencies. And he was specifically told it has to be 3 white guys. And he was upset because the 3 people who were the weakest on his team were either black or women. And those, if he had to turf people, he wanted to turf the weakest ones. And it just happened in this case that they had been DEI hires and they were not strong. And his best performers happened to be white guys. But he was told by his boss, the 3, that you have to pick amongst the white men. That's illegal. That's exactly the kind of person who should call Team Trump in a whistleblower or anonymous situation and say, you need to come investigate my bank. And this has happened to me. And then they come and kick those tires because there is a way of the federal government coming and involving itself, against a bank if it's violating the civil rights laws in this way.
Yeah, I mean, Harmeet Dillon is President Trump's nominee to lead the Civil Rights Division in the Justice Department, and she is very well versed on all of these federal civil rights statutes. And not only are these private institutions potentially exposing themselves to tremendous civil liability for violating the federal civil rights statutes, you also have a criminal component to the federal civil rights statutes. And so these banks, these institutions that think they're going to be woke and discriminate based upon race, even though the executive branch is making it very clear that they're going to enforce the laws. I think they're doing this at their own peril. And I would say to these executives at these publicly traded companies, remember, you have duties to your shareholders to make sure that you're not running your company in violation of federal civil rights statutes and exposing the company to astronomical civil liability along with criminal liability.
We continue to face uncertainty when it comes to the economy, with a perfect storm brewing as Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point, as the largest generation is, of course, hitting retirement. A smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. You pair that with our growing national debt and rising cost of living, and we could have a big problem. So what are you doing right now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. and it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text MK to the number 989898 and get your free info kit on gold and a copy of The Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings and diversify them. Text my initials, MK, to the number 989898 to learn more today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.